Well, as someone who I write an advice column, it always sounds like a joke when I say that out loud. So I'm going to try to keep a straight face. But that is what I get paid to do, and I'm constantly on the hunt for films about breakups, which is very different than a film that is a romantic comedy, in my opinion. That I love stories about people going through heartbreak and the relationships they form while going through that heartbreak. So I just wanted to ask, sort of, all of your films are really relationship films. I mean, that's sort of at the heart. And what films come to mind, that influenced you in terms of, being relationship movies?
Well, I mean, I love relationship comedies. I always have. I mean, immediately High Fidelity comes to mind. I think that's that's a great breakup movie. I mean, it's just great. But all over the place. I was thinking a lot about my daughter, strangely enough, making this film, and John Hughes. We were watching. She's 12, and we'd started watching John Hughes. And I was thinking, I want to make something that's sort of in that sort of territory, but where it's ultimately not about the guy at all. So John Hughes was a big influence, especially on this one.
Well, one movie that came to mind in that last scene was Say Anything, where there's that deep breath at the end and being on a flight, and yet to see it in a different picture with three women, in those seats, it was very exciting that it explores female friendship as much as it does romance.
Well, yeah, thank you. There's one, I mean, I like the idea that one of the biggest characters in this story is someone that we only meet briefly at the beginning and the end. And then in the middle, Keith Stanfield's character is sort of like just a projection of her imagination, which is, so it's more like an internal thing than, it's really about, I like breakup stories, I do. And to me, like, part of the story of a breakup is when it's over, but you don't feel done, and trying to get past there's no one to talk to anymore, but this thing is still like you're still processing. How do you sort of dramatize that? Thank you for that question. That's the question was like, did I ever intend to show any of her creative work or creative process in the film? And to me, I felt like I was showing some of her process in the fantasies with her ex, kind of like, I think in my mind, Jessica's work is very much like comes from her life, and and when we see her, those are imagined dialogues with her ex. So to me, that's it a little bit, like that's her work in some sort of form, like that's her voice in some sort of form. But apart from that, I think it's tricky to tell stories about writers in general and how to make that interesting. And yeah, that was as close as I wanted to get to it, because otherwise it can get really kind of, not very cinematic or not very fun to watch. I made a film a couple years ago, and Jessica had a supporting part in it, and I'd been a fan of hers forever. As soon as I'm a fan of The Daily Show, and as soon as she appeared on The Daily Show, I just was just enamored with her right away. I just thought she's just so fast, and the topic she was covering on The Daily Show was just like everything about her was just felt really exciting and fresh. Like, what a voice! And then I met her, and we got to work together a little bit, and it was just fun. I just felt there was this easiness, kind of, and I said afterwards, I think I'm gonna write something for you, and she said, well, go ahead, I'll read it. And I just, it was like at the beginning of every day, thinking about it was like, honestly, the first consideration was, what would it be fun to see Jessica do? Not Jessica Williams, but like Jessica, this character, the Jessica, the talent that I know that she has. What would be fun? What situation would be fun to see her in? And that was kind of like motivation while writing it the whole time.